Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Thijs and welcome to another episode of 2-Minute Tech Tuesdays. In this episode, we'll talk about backend health. We'll talk about how to poll the backend for its health. We'll talk about looking into the logs, and we'll talk about anticipating and taking corrective measures when your backend would go down. I'll put 2 minutes on the timer and explain to you what you need to know about backend health. Asking a backend about its health can be done through a VCL health probe. As you can see in the VCL code, the probe has a name and a collection of properties, such as the URL, the timeout, the polling interval, the evaluation window, and the threshold, which represents the minimum amount of successful probes within a window to consider the backend healthy. And that probe can be assigned to the backend through the probe property. Through the varnish log command, and more specifically this varnish log command, you can have a look at the varnish shared memory logs and see what the backend health is in real time. You can see whether or not the backend is healthy, went sick, or became back healthy. A collection of window probe bits give you more insight. In this case, it's an IPv4 connection with a good transmission, a good reception, and a happy backend. The following field shows the number of successful probes within the window, and of course the two next fields represent the preset threshold and the preset window size. The logs also show the amount of time it took for the probe and the average amount of time. And finally, you also see the server output. One way of dealing with a sick backend is by serving stale content. This of course assumes that the requested content is already stored in the cache. And we can configure this through VCL. Besides the boilerplate VCL code that contains the probes and the backend definitions, we can define some logic in VCL receive and check whether or not the backend is healthy through std.healthy. When the backend is healthy, we reduce the staleness, which overrides the staleness that was preset to 24 hours, which means cached content can be served 24 hours beyond its TTL if the backend is unavailable. Another solution that also may cater for content that is not stored in the cache is defining a secondary backend. And we can define them separately in VCL and use a concept called directors to expose multiple backends as a single backend. We import the directors vmod and initialize it in VCL init. We choose a fallback strategy and assign that as a directors object called director. Through the add backend functions, we can assign multiple backends. Because it's a fallback strategy, the first defined backend will take precedence, and when it becomes unhealthy, the secondary takes over. And in VCL receive, we can assign an individual backend on a per request basis, which will use the backend health. However, this is not always that efficient, because the secondary backend is only used when the primary is down. We can also use a round robin strategy and use an active-active distribution, which means we're actually load balancing and health is taken into account. And that was it for this week. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again real soon with more content presented to you in 2 minutes or less.